Sasha versus Bayley wasn't just women's wrestling, it was fucking incredible wrestling that could have main evented this show or main evented SummerSlam because it stole the SummerSlam weekend. I'm John Ritlin with a retro review of NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1. In the Barclays Center, NXT had been touring, but they hadn't been on a Full Sail for a takeover. And the question was, could they take, the small atmosphere of a Full Sail takeover, even though some of the takeovers were quite good and they'd really improved on the formula, even with some of the hit and miss matches. They were getting it right, but could they fill an NBA-sized arena? Oh yeah, they could. They filled it with a molten hot crowd, and even if this wasn't one of the best takeovers, even though it had one of the best takeover matches in history, in my personal opinion, one of my favorite matches of the last decade, one of my favorite matches of all time, I would argue. They definitely made it loud, and they justified going to the Barclays Center, and it was fucking great. So I'd love to know what you guys have to say in the comments as we start. Triple H is in the ring talking about the movement, gaining momentum and all that. He says, "We told you we are the future until you told us the future is meow." And then he broke out a cat, which would have been more hilarious. Cat probably would have been scared by all the lights and all the loud reactions and everything, because cats tend to be like that. But he do the whole pan shot, "We are NXT," and then we go the whole "We Like It Loud," "Sleeping with Sirens," I think was the name of the band. I don't know, girl mainly screamed in it, so I wasn't exactly sure what she was saying beyond "We Like It Loud." But we have commentary from Rich Use the Weapon as a Ladder Brennan, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxon. Yes, the infamous pay-per-view where Rich Brennan did say "use the weapon as a ladder." He did correct himself later, but it was meme-worthy for a number of months. He's doing something now. I don't know what else he's doing. I think he's back to doing sports broadcasting, but he wasn't that bad. I actually thought he was pretty good. So we have Tyler Breeze doing an entrance where he's around a bunch of landmarks, women dressed as landmarks. The landmarks, of course, have more personality. Those women really did not seem lifelike at all. They seemed literally statuesque. Like, wait, what? What are we supposed to do? Like, I understand that you're supposed to just, that when you're extras, you don't try to steal the show. But goddamn, that just was kind of funny to me. It was something I really noticed even now. But Breeze got treated like a big deal. I wish that Breeze was still treated like a big deal instead of the joke he is now. And I'm not saying Tyler Breeze would have ever been anything beyond Intercontinental Champion or a mid-card champion, U.S. champion, whatever. But fucking hell, they could have used him a whole lot better. Because besides the Fashion Files and a couple things, his main roster run was fucking terrible. His current run in NXT ain't all that great. It just seemed like they treat him as a bigger deal here. Even if his TakeOver record wasn't great, he seemed like a bigger deal. And he had this big entrance, and then he took on Jushin Thunder Liger in his first ever and only WWE appearance, at least in the ring. He's going to be part of the Hall of Fame whenever they decide to have that whole thing. They may have to have it by Zoom at this point. But this was a fun match. Now, was it a great match? It wasn't one of Breeze's best matches. It wasn't one of Liger's best matches. Because Liger had already had a 31-year career by that point. And I know he became Liger in 1989, but I'm talking he had a few years before that. This was a fucking, great experience. And it was also great to be able to see Jushin Thunder Liger about a year ago today in Tacoma, for a New Japan show, which I never thought I'd be able to see Jushin Thunder Liger in a ring, live. It was fucking great. Great show also. It was just great to see. And yes, Liger did a bunch of his shit. Breeze did some of his shit. The match was good back and forth, but Liger, of course, beat him. Liger bomb 1, 2, 3. Now, you could argue that Breeze maybe should have gone over, but I don't think Breeze had a problem losing to Liger. I'm just guessing, but I don't think he had a problem losing to the legend Jushin Thunder Liger. And because he was under contract in New Japan, they could have him appear on the network, but they couldn't have him appear on, WWE TV, which, that makes sense. And honestly, it was just really cool to see Liger there. So, we then get, we get shots of the crowd throughout the night. Nash, Hall, and X-Pac in the front row. We then get a Nia Jax vignette, and it was all downhill from there. Then again, it never really went uphill or peaked. It just kind of, it started at the bottom and then went further down, basically. I'm talking as far as her in-ring career. She just doesn't seem to be really all that good. We then get the Vaudevillains, which are Simon Gotch and Aiden English with Blue Pants, the current Leva Bates in AEW, the librarian. They took on Blake and Murphy with Alexa Bliss, a newly healed Alexa Bliss. I think she had just been healed a few months. And it's an NXT tag title match. It was okay. The crowd was chanting Blue Pants City. Corey was burying her. She doesn't even work here. You don't go here. Cue those chants. And I forget if it was Blake or Murphy that had like some kind of issue they had to work out in the courts. I don't remember who it was. I thought it was a DUI thing. Some kind of criminal charge that was going to like have a court appearance. And they took the titles off of them. And they'd had the championships for what, like 200 something days. So it wasn't like they had a short reign. But the Vaudevillains honestly should have won anyway, criminal charges or not. And they hit the Whirling Dervish, 1, 2, 3, big pop. Of course, Vaudevillains would lose it to the now FTR, but the future Revival. Like on NXT TV, I think shortly before, Eva Marie got a shot at Bayley. Whoo! That was shit. So, not a bad match, but nothing special. Crowd reaction was really, really good, though. Neville then arrives with Balor, and then Cesaro talks to Balor. Of course, music's so loud because we like it loud, and also the music was just really loud. It wasn't my TV. They really wanted to promote that goddamn song. We then get Rick Rubin, who's a music influencer, really, really popular in the music industry. Read up about him. But he also helped fund Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Little Southern Territory, over a few state areas. Not the entire tri-state area. We're not Doofenshmirtz. But he blew up Corey Graves when Corey Graves tried to give him a handshake. It was fucking hilarious. That was just great. Rubin's like, I love wrestling. Who the fuck is this guy in his loud jacket? Get him away from me. And then we have Ty Dillinger's old theme, which sounds like something from a 70s or 80s sci-fi series where the crowd is like all like trying to get in the battles and everything, and then it like freeze frames. And a freeze frame is stuck in your head. Same, because it's always stuck in my head. I have a lot of songs playing in here. But Ty's theme is just really, really funny. Ty Dillinger, of course, the current Shawn Spears, is when he was doing his 10 gimmick and we're doing all that. Ty Dillinger and Jason Jordan used to be a tag team. And actually, it was kind of interesting how that worked out. So, Apollo Crews, his debut, and on his birthday. And he did most of his shit. Dillinger got in some shots, but there was no doubt that Crews was going to go over. He went over. If only they had kept Crews in NXT a year longer than they did, because they called him up and they had absolutely nothing for him. They had nothing for him, and it took them 5 years to figure out what the fuck to do with him. And it's just fucking ridiculous. And I'm not even saying they're using him all that great now, but it's like they're using him better. They're at least using him in something. But yeah, he hit a press slam, hit the standing moonsault, 1, 2, 3. And then Regal announces the Dusty Classic tournament. And then we had the Tough Enough finalists, which were, and I don't even remember the huge guy. Who was the huge guy? Josh? Was that his name? I don't even fucking remember. He's a really, really tall guy. And then Sarah Lee, the bread girl. Mandy, Mandy Rose. And ZZ. I defy anybody to understand what the fuck ZZ said, even with subtitles. He literally sounded like Boomhauer mixed with a swamp guy. He made no sense. But yeah, Mandy's the only one left there, in WWE at least. So we get Samoa Joe versus Corbin Jobin, if you will. And it was fine. It was fine. This is when Corbin was doing his lone wolf thing. His big lads smashing each other. That's for a certain person I know that thinks about Corbin that way. And Joe gets the clutch for the win. It wasn't a bad match. It wasn't a great match. And then we have Flair, Slaughter, and the future Asuka, but known as Kana with 2 ends. I thought it was with 1 end. Let me try that again. But yeah, Kana. And she looked like at Flair like, oh great, there's my future. Thanks for giving me the Charlotte problem. Yeah, I'm sorry. I already ranted about that before. But hey, it was cool to see, the pre-Asuka Kana right there. And then Tamina and Naomi were there, part of Team Bad. Remember Team Bad? Remember that? Remember how that was a horrible use of everybody? And Tamina for what she was worth in the ring physically, aka not much. Nothing against Naomi. Nothing against Naomi at all. But also the other one was Sasha. So we get Stephanie talking about the women's revolution, which she had nothing to do with. I will not hear that Stephanie deserves credit for giving the women more of a platform. I have my own opinions on that, but Stephanie McMahon is a greedy glory hound that, matches her dad's ego, maybe is even worse. And whatever. She talks about, the women's championship match we're going to see here. Sasha gets an escalating entrance. Yes, that escalated quickly. I'm going to keep mentioning escalate until you get the fact I'm talking about the cars. And then Bayley has Dusty Polka Dots. And here we go. Bayley versus Sasha. One of the finest matches that WWE put on in the last decade. Easily. This wasn't just women's wrestling. And there's nothing wrong with the label of women's wrestling, but there's always some people that like say, oh, well, it was good for a women's match, or it was good for this, or, well, it doesn't compare to some men's matches, or it would be about in the middle if you compared it to men's matches. So there's always going to be some critics like that. I will say this right now, that you could put this match up against anything from an American promotion that the women did from 2010 to 2015. You could put it up, in a 5-year period. And this was the best women's match on American soil, at least in the mainstream wrestling promotion of that year. It was better than anything in Impact. Now, something against Impact. Impact had some good people as well. But it was better than anything WWE was putting on the main roster. That's for fucking sure. Because they had a really, really bad current champion that was a Divas champion, Nikki Bella, who was fighting through a neck injury. So to be fair, I don't think she could have had good matches even if she wanted to, because she wanted to protect her neck and not die. And thankfully she didn't, because neck injuries are no goddamn joke. But that being said, Bayley and Sasha fucking cut the goddamn, they cut everybody down. They cut everything down, everybody down below them. They were like, we're on a pedestal. You're all down below us. Kneel before Zod. I don't know why they would have said that. But they just made sure that everybody was below them. And without intending to, I'm sure they intended to steal the show, but without intending to degrade anybody, but they just fucking stole everything. It was the story that they had built of Sasha being this full-on bitch. Her and Bayley had used to be friends. Sasha eventually won the championship and had beaten Becky at Takeover Unstoppable, which was a really good submission match. I reviewed that a number of months ago. May, actually. God damn, this year seems to be going on forever. But Bayley had been building back up. She had had a hand injury. But the whole thing is that every time she had come close to winning the championship, she wasn't able to win it. And it was a great, well-crafted story of these two former friends and stuff like that, and Sasha getting greedy and everything, being the boss character, and, foregoing her friends. Like, she doesn't need friends, despite the fact Tamina and Naomi were right there because they're a trio. Because we needed women in groups, human centipede together, like at SummerSlam. We needed a three-team three-way. That's exactly what we fucking needed. But this match was fucking incredible. Fucking incredible. I'm just going to hit my notes once again. Whew. Here's why it was one of the best matches. It's hard to quantify unless you lived through it. And lived through it. I obviously didn't see it live, but I was watching it on the network live. As I point back to my covered TV. I just enjoyed the fact that this was a story that they told well. You could tell that everything was smooth here. Even any of the awkward spots, the women pulled it off just fine, because awkward spots are going to happen, especially in a match this big. And the instant the bell rang, now you could see the emotion in the women in both their faces as they did their entrances. The instant the bell rang, Sasha had to take a moment to take it in. You could tell she had her head down a little bit. And you could understand that, because she was like, holy shit, Bayley and I are about to make history. This match should have main evented, because I got nothing against Owens and Balor. The crowd was done after that. The crowd popped for the ladder match. This match broke the show. It broke the weekend. Again, I'm not saying SummerSlam didn't have good matches, but this fucking broke the weekend. Stole the weekend. The emotion was absolutely incredible. The crowd was electric, though the Sasha's ratchet chants it could have fucking done without. Oh boy. That's aged what? No, that was a bad idea anyway. Google it if you don't know, but you're gonna probably fucking regret looking up the slang for, what ratchet means. And Sasha's dive gets a holy shit chant because the ref's checking, and then she does a dive over the top. The focusing on the hand, Bayley's previously injured hand, just a great storytelling. Sasha berating her verbally and everything. And eventually, got to this point where she snapped the arm down. She got the bank statement. I'm like, well, that's your lot right there. Bayley's going to lose. It's like I was gullible. But I was also thinking, oh, fuck, they're going to just take it away here. The crowd would have fucking rioted, by the way, if Bayley hadn't won. They probably would have set the seats on fire, literally. So, you got this whole thing. She gets the bank statement on and everything. She's trying to stomp on the hand. Yes, there was some bad camera work where she obviously wasn't stomping on the hand, but then again, she didn't want to. She wanted to make it look like she was hurting her, but not actually hurting her. And then she pushes off the ropes. And Bayley manages to get out and get her own bank statement on. The crowd fucking unglued itself right there. It came unglued. It was amazing. It was like just, I was like, it's like, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. I just watch it, but it's like, I get goosebumps every time I think about that moment, because I was like, okay, they got the people right. They had the people anyway, but they really have the people now. And it was just fucking great. It was just fucking incredible. And then, you got Bayley to belly for 2. And then Sasha stops a, head scissors, hurricanrana off the top. Looks like Bayley crashes and burns. Double knees. Sasha can't quite get her. And then the reverse Rana. And I don't necessarily like the reverse Rana. The way they did it was probably the safest they could do it, not the spike Rana, the poison Rana. And then she hits that second Bayley to belly. 1, 2, 3. The crowd lost it. The crowd absolutely lost it. Everybody, it was pain. There was not a person sitting down in most of the front side area. Everybody was just fucking cheering. Everybody was on their goddamn feet because they knew they witnessed something special, and they did. They really fucking did. It was a fucking amazing match. It was goddamn fucking incredible. I can't praise it enough. Bayley's obviously emotional. She turns around eventually after walking around and sees Charlotte and Becky, back when we could tolerate Charlotte, and before Becky decided to go be a mother later. Whew. God, I shouldn't make fun of accents. But then even Bayley and Sasha hugged in the 4 horsewomen thing, which is apparently a thing that they're just going to drive into the ground. WWE, that is. But they're all emotional. Everything's great. And then they had Seth and Zara. Oh, 5 years. What a difference 5 years makes. Oh boy. Anyway, Balor versus Kevin Owens used the weapon as a ladder NXT title match, and it was good. It was good for what it was. I'm not knocking it. Both these men really did some great shit. I imagine that both men probably were like to the women, like, thanks, ladies. How the fuck? It's like you're probably looking at each other. How the fuck are we gonna follow that? They couldn't. I mean, and they did. They did to their best. They did some good ladder bumps. They did some good shit, and Balor won. And then Owens went up to the main roster. Well, he was already going to be up on the main roster anyway, because he had lost at Beast in the East. But that was basically it right there. So the match was fun. The match was good. It was a great show. Bayley and Sasha stole the goddamn thing. And really, if you didn't feel something during that match, by the way, you didn't have a fucking pulse. I don't often say that because it's all subjective, but that match will stand the test of time, in my opinion. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.